Systematic supervision, a positive way to monitor common areas. This presentation is brought to you by Pleasanton Unified School District social workers. The presentation is primarily for staff who are providing supervision to students during non-classroom time, such as during lunch, on the playground or blacktop, or during passing periods. Systematic supervision is a method of supervising students in physical spaces that will help decrease problem behavior, increase student cooperation, make your job less stressful and more fun. Systematic supervision is based on research that has identified what works well when supervising students in common areas such as hallways, cafeterias, libraries, and other areas where students are making transitions or are hanging out. Systematic supervision is the training component used to train campus supervisors on PBIS framework or positive behavioral interventions and supports. Systematic supervision includes 4 basic skills. The first is being active so that supervisors know what is going on in the areas they are supervising. The second, being positive, is so that supervisors and students establish good relationships. This capitalizes on students' desire to be involved and encourages them to be cooperative and engaged. Next, responding appropriately to behavior problems. This means addressing the behavior with an individual student without getting distracted from supervising the group. Lastly, communicating with other staff and the students and parents. Communicating regularly with everyone builds consistency and trust and fosters cooperation. Being active means moving around constantly and unpredictably, with randomized patterns so you can see where students are and what they are doing. Scanning with your eyes and ears so you notice positive behaviors and potential problems right away. When supervisors move and scan, they are more involved with students, are more able to encourage positive behavior, and can step in early to prevent problems from getting worse. If you are new to the school district, some questions you may want to ask your team are, what are the problem areas at your school site? And what strategies have worked for your peers? If you have been working for the school district for some time, please try to identify what some of the problem areas are at your school site and brainstorm ideas as to how you could improve those problem areas. Being positive means creating a friendly atmosphere by being friendly and open yourself, making an effort to connect with individual students and student groups. These connections can look like direct general positive comments towards students, using student names when possible, connect positive comments to the character trait they are displaying, and being friendly, open, and helpful. Research shows when we reinforce appropriate behavior, students are more likely to display that appropriate behavior. Always try to remember the 4-to-1 rule, which is for every 1 negative statement, you must give 4 positive statements. Through the PBIS framework, each school site has developed 3 to 5 positively stated school rules. The next time you are at your school site, please inquire what your school rules are and where you may grab a copy of the Behavioral Expectation Matrix. This matrix states what the expected behaviors are in different locations on campus. In addition to a verbal acknowledgement of positive behavior, each school site has also implemented an acknowledgement reward system. This reward system provides a tangible way for students to be acknowledged for their positive behavior. Depending upon the school site, you may hand out a piece of paper which states the school rules, or you may follow up with inputting information into a Google form, which will generate an email home to the student's parents, notifying them of the positive behavior. When acknowledging a student's positive behavior, state what the behavior is and tie it to the school rule. For example, when you see a student walking another student to the office because of an injury, say, "Thank you for walking your friend to the nurse's office. That is very responsible of you." When responding to problem behaviors, focus on the behavior, not the student. Concentrate on the problem at hand and try to resolve the issue privately when possible. Be respectful, speak in a calm voice, use simple, direct language, be consistent, and don't take things personally. All students have participated in classroom lessons which discuss the school site's 3 to 5 positively stated school rules. Therefore, when you notice a student who is not following the rules, please refer them back to the expectation matrix. This should allow for less back and forth discussion between you and the student regarding the school rule they may have violated. Referencing the school's expectation matrix should depersonalize the intervention. Also, please remember, a consequence for following school rules does not need to be punitive. For example, at lunchtime, when students are running to get into the lunch line, first, have the student re-walk, thus resulting in the natural consequence of now being last in line. Remember, when a problem occurs, you must define the problem and give a direction, a correction, and/or consequence. If the student is cooperative, acknowledge the student by giving praise. If the student is uncooperative, redirect and give the student a choice. If they then become cooperative, acknowledge them and give them praise. If the student continues to be uncooperative, apply the 2-minute rule. Basically, the 2-minute rule is, if you cannot resolve the issue within 2 minutes, you may need to refer the student to an administrator, or you may need to notify another campus supervisor that you will need to spend some time working with the student regarding the problem behavior. This will notify your peers that they may need to cover your supervision area. Please ask your school site what their specific process is in the case of an uncooperative student, or inquire of the discipline flowchart. The discipline flowchart provides staff a clear pathway for when problem behaviors occur. Problem behaviors are separated as staff-managed versus office-managed behaviors. Staff-managed behaviors are those that staff and teachers should be able to handle without involving school site administration or sending the student to the office. If the student remains uncooperative, even though the behavior may be a staff-managed behavior, you may need to send the student to the office for the administrator to intervene. Again, please refer to your school site discipline flowchart. Systematic supervision will not work without communication. Please remember to use positive language over the walkie-talkie. Do not use student names unless there is an injury or a student needs to report to the office as a parent is picking them up. Encourage and support each other, and share best practices with each other. As you will be working with students on a daily basis, please remember these tips to improve their behavior. Tip number 1, keep your expectations realistic. It is important to know the age level you are working with. First grade student behavior expectations are very different from the expectations for a 5th grader. Tip number 2, plan ahead. If it is a rainy day, try to plan for the students you know will struggle with this. Some students have a difficult time with change. Some students need outdoor recess to run. When this is out of our control, as a supervisor, you will need to be prepared to handle these situations. Tip number 3, clearly state your expectations in advance. Be sure students know what is expected of their behavior. Most classrooms have provided lessons for students, however, you may need to remind them. Make sure you have the student's attention when you provide the clear direction of what is expected of them. Tip number 4, offer limited, reasonable choices. When presented with a situation in which a student is not following the rules, present them with reasonable choices. For example, it is not safe for you to throw the ball at someone's face. You may either bounce the ball before it gets to the person, or you may choose not to play this game. Tip number 5, use when-then or if-then statements. A when-then or if-then statement is a simple instruction. For example, when you have thrown away your trash, then you may go out to the playground. Or, if you speak with an inside voice, then I will be able to answer your question. Tip number 6, catch your student being good. Acknowledge the positives and ignore the negatives as long as there is no safety risk. Tip number 7, stay calm. Often when you approach a situation with a calm manner, the person to whom you are speaking with will match the calmness. Remember, it is not personal. And lastly, tip number 8, use neutral time. Neutral time cannot be found in the middle of a difficult situation filled with strong feelings. It's important to remember that neutral time can occur either before or after a child's unacceptable behavior occurs. You can talk about what happened earlier and talk about positive ways to handle problems in the future. Thank you very much for participating in this presentation. Please remember to reach out to your school site and find out what the 3 to 5 positively stated rules and behavior expectations are, what the acknowledgement system is, and what the procedure is when a student is uncooperative.